Thank you. Item 1 on the agenda, declarations of interest. I'm going to ask the monitoring officer to make an announcement regarding a dispensation for those members present.
Thank you. That's okay. So just to confirm, I did send an email around to councillors regarding this, and I'll just make the declaration on your behalf this evening. So the reason for the dispensation for all councillors is that we do need to be mindful that this decision would affect you more than it would a general member of the public. Therefore, you have a dispensation for this evening. For those that are twin hatters, we will also register your other registrable interest as you have a county council role, and that will go down, but that dispensation also covers that. So that's your declarations and then dispensations for this evening.
Okay. Are there any other interests from any members they wish to declare? No, thank you. Apologies for absence. Claire, could I have the apologies, please?
Thank you, Chair. I've received apologies from councillors Beadle, Berry, Booth, Bow, Brennan, Lee, Mancini, Boyle, Potter and Yousefian.
Thank you. Item 3 on the agenda, final proposal for local government reorganisation in Norfolk. I'm going to invite the leader to present the report and to propose the recommendations.
Thank you. Well, good evening, everybody. In introducing this proposal for submission, it's important that we understand the purpose and origins of the need for such a paper to be presented to you. So, councillors, as we consider this paper before us today, I would remind you of the basis under which the work has been undertaken. In December 2024, Government announced its programme for local government reorganisation to run alongside, although not integral to, its devolution programme. Government's ambition is to remove the two-tier system across the country and replace all councils with unitary authorities. This led to an instruction for councils in Norfolk and Suffolk to begin work on and to submit within a few weeks an interim proposal for a model of unitarisation for each county. You will remember discussing this earlier this year. The requirement to submit a detailed submission on 26th of September 2025 followed. To be clear, neither we councillors nor our residents have been asked to consider the benefits of unitarisation. Councils have been instructed to make a submission for Norfolk that will reform and benefit provision of public services. This has been an extremely complex process, and our proposal today is the culmination of much hard work and intensive data analysis led and supported by 5 district, borough and city councils in our county, working cross-party to arrive at this paper for that detailed submission. For over 50 years, district councils have been bedded in their communities and have provided a wide range of extensive services supporting their residents and businesses, covering health, housing, homelessness, planning, regulatory functions, environmental management, economic development, along with a range of discretionary services to help us all to lead healthy and happy lives, and also along with the support for those in need. It is essential that these services and the ability to work to local needs is maintained in the future, and I truly believe that the option for 3 unitaries before you is the best solution for us here in Norfolk, within the guidelines set out by the government. We've ensured that our work towards this proposal has included engagement with our residents and with our stakeholders. Our consultation received over 5,000 responses. These and engagement sessions with stakeholders and town and parish councils have overwhelmingly supported localised, community-engaged councils and councillors, and this is what we have achieved in this proposal. It is very clear that a large multi-area council that does not take account of rural, coastal or urban needs and locations cannot achieve the level of local engagement our residents, that's us, need and expect. As you'll see from the rigorous financial analysis summarised in the document in front of you, the 3 councils will be viable from day one, and savings which can be made amount to over 50 million. It is very important to note that the county debt of around 900 million will not be written off, and whatever form of unitary proposal the government chooses, that debt will remain to be serviced by the new council arrangement. It is also important to note that while the document sets out proposals for the way in which the new authorities could practically work, the implementation and set-up of those new authorities will be decided by those who are elected as they set out on their journey in shadow form in 2027. Finally, there is another point that needs to be considered in terms of a potential democratic deficit. With the devolution programme running towards a strategic authority led by an elected mayor in 2026, I cannot accept that there is true democratic representation across our region in an arrangement where one single unitary for each county leads to a situation where 3 people are the decision makers for nearly 2 million of us. That cannot be right. Leaders of all unitary authorities will have a seat at that table, and it is right and proper that we have full representation. 3 unitaries gives us that opportunity as electors. 1 does not. There will be much more to do in the coming months to ensure that whichever decision the government makes, all our councils are in a position to carry out work forward into the future. I am sure all of us here, will remain committed to the residents of Broadland to ensure stability and continued services during that transition process. In the meantime, I recommend this proposal to you for submission for a 3 unitary Norfolk dedicated to upholding public services in its new form for the 50 years to come. So the recommendations I'm asking you is 1, I'd like Council to note the contents of the report and the final proposal annexed to this report, and 2, that Council endorses the final proposal for a 3 unitary model for local government reorganisation in Norfolk, and 3, delegate to the Managing Director in consultation with the Leader the authority to make any non-material amendments to the final proposal and submit that final proposal to the Secretary of State for Housing, Communities and Local Government. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Holland. Do you have a seconder? Natasha, do you wish to speak now or later?
I'll reserve my right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I would like to invite members for contributions, but I just want a reminder, understanding orders, everyone only speaks once. This is not a question and answer session, this is a debate on whether you accept the document or not. Who would like to start, please? Fran.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to not start the debate, but offer an amendment to the recommendation 2, to endorse the final proposal for a single unitary model for local government reorganisation in Norfolk. Thank you.
Can I just come back on that? That amendment actually negates the motion before you.
Okay.
No.
Anybody else, please? Yes, Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Chair. I've read through this report and I have to say I'm a little bit disappointed. It is, it's a bit unclear in places. It suggests that there is, well, in Norwich they talk about having a single adult social services for all 3 unitaries, and then the other 2 talk about having an individual one. I don't know whether that's just a mistake in the report. Also, the only reason we would do government reorganisation is to save money. And I can't see how this saves money. I really can't. You know, if you're going to have to replace the statutory roles, so Director of Social Services, Director of Public Health, Director of Children's Services, you know, they are statutory roles. They will need to be filled across all 3 councils. Those people are rare and they cost a lot of money. I don't think you're going to be able to do it. And I think it's going to cost more. The report doesn't set out any overall view of the costs. There's lots of assumptions and things. But so I picked up the Suffolk figures because they've been through the same thing. And they have said over the first 5 years, 3 councils will cost £145 million extra. 1 council will save 78 million. The yearly costs after the 5 years are £39 million saved with 1 council and an extra 13.1 million with 3 councils. So I would like to just point out that I think this is not the best for our constituents. I don't think it actually saves them money, and I think it will cost them more.
Thank you for your comments. Councillor Emsell.
As Broadland councillors, we have a responsibility to do what is best for our residents, and councillors of other councils do what is best for their residents. For instance, if I was a Broadland or Kings Lynn or Great Yarmouth councillor, I would be voting for the 3 unitary deal, as it protects them from Norwich City Council's liability. If I was a city councillor, I would vote for this, as it gives the opportunity to obtain a lot more money to waste. I am not a member of those councils, though. I'm a Broadland councillor, and I represent the residents of Thorpe St Andrew. And agreeing to this would be signing up all my residents to unthinkable levels of liability. Norwich City Council housing stock has been poorly maintained for years, with all their money from the housing being used to plug black holes in their badly managed finances, not to do repairs. The City Council recently lost £6 million on a failed housing project, down to mismanagement. And they have now taken on Anglia Square development. Who knows how much they will lose? It will be unfair to sign my residents up to that financial risk. There are very clear reasons the other councils want the 3 unitary deal, as they, like us, have always been prudent and hold reserves that will vanish unless they distance themselves from Norwich. Honestly, I think the whole idea from a confused Labour government is flawed. A rush job to change things that work better for them, but not definitely for Broadland or Norfolk as a whole. I do not know how councillors from other areas, such as Brundall, the Plumsteads, Spixworth, Horsford, have agreement from their residents to vote to make their areas part of Greater Norwich. Residents in Thorpe St Andrew have no desire to see boundaries move that take them into the city. Thank you.
Councillor Warnock, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to talk about safeguarding of people and services. I mean, we're talking about disaggregating huge departments, really, like adult social care, children's services, education. Schools are going to different blocks, youth justice, highways, libraries and museum service, on, public health, trading standards, etc. You've got statutory positions within, you'd need a director of adult social care, like 3, instead of just 1. You'd need 3 directors of children's services. You would need 3 directors of public health. The statutory positions, you would need them. So that's additional cost. But also, more over and above that, it's really important to understand that these people are really difficult to find. Really difficult to find. They're not just, you can't just pick them off a tree. I mean, at county at the moment, we've been trying to find a director of public health for some time. We couldn't find an interim, right? We had to have someone act up, which is fine. They're doing a great job. But we are advertising and trying to find someone. I'm just making the point that we cannot find these people. They're not out there. But even within the report, when it talks in the risks here, page 495, it talks about social care migration. It says the transition to the unitaries may disrupt key safeguarding services, and therefore critical cases may be missed or interventions delayed, leading to risk for service users. And around workforce, I mean, we know the difficulties we have with people such as planners. We take someone from Great Yarmouth, we have someone go to Broadland. That's happening all the time. We're shuffling the pack. That's exactly what will happen with 3 unitaries, with social care workforce, who are even more difficult to find, frankly. It says disruption combined with a national workforce shortage may prevent the unitaries recruiting to social care roles, including statutory roles, as I've referred to. And it goes on to say there's a high risk that unitaries will not have capacity to deliver for vesting day. And I think that, for me, that's the most important thing, is we need to really think about what we can deliver from day one. It's so important, and I don't think the 3 model can do that, which is why I don't support it, and I won't support it. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Warnock. Councillor Eden, please.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, sorry. First of all, just in response to Councillor Emsall's point against unitaries, well, we need to actually think about the voter, and at the moment it is a very confusing situation for the voter. For instance, we just recently in our ward had a problem with a parked car, and the amount of it was presented to Broadland councillors. We have to go to Norfolk, and backwards and forwarding is not, it's not a very straightforward situation. So I think there did need to be a change to unitary things to make democracy actually work in a straightforward way, so people know who they're voting for. I would also say against a single unitary, that would be nearly 1 million people, representing 1 million people. That is actually more than 12, the population of 12 European countries. It would be the second largest council in the country, covering 2,000 square miles. And really, if you're representing 1 million people, it's not local government. You can't call it local government. And we can't respond in the way that we're also good at, and everyone in this room, from whichever party, I'm sure really responds to individuals. There is no way we can do that with a single unitary.
Thank you, Councillor Lee. I've got Councillor Gurney next, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Obviously, people know that I'm a Norfolk County Councillor, and my kind of interest there has been for a number of years now, adult social services and public health. So I was particularly interested to see some of the commentary on page 189 regarding the average, the spend in adult social services per head in the Greater Norwich accounts at £429.39, comfortably the lowest in Norfolk, and I'd query that because I'd like some clarification on whether that is per week, per month, per year, because it doesn't say so. So I think there's a bit of ambiguity going on there, because certainly £421.39 wouldn't buy 16 hours of adult social care for anybody. So that's one of my concerns in that report. And then I turn to page 411, which states that 6.3.4, helping to maintain people's independence and supporting to live in their own homes in the communities they know is a better outcome for individuals. Yes, I quite agree with that. That's an ethos I hold to my heart. And then helps avoid residential care costs, which in Greater Norwich costs on average £490 a week. Well, if you can find a residential care home that will take you for £490 a week, as I interpret this information, I'd like to know about it, because my mum's getting towards care home and I'll grab it, because at the moment the average cost of a care home in Broadland, in particular one in Helsden, is £1,250 per week. And I can find care homes in Broadland, particularly with specialist dementia care, that are even in excess of £1,500 per week. So I query some of the statistics in this report, because they just don't stack up with my own knowledge of adult social care services. I then come on to Helsden. I represent Helsden North West, and the people of Helsden have been speaking to me in the hordes, particularly in the Co-op, in the Dixon Centre and Asda, you name it, I get collared. They are a bit like Jonathan, residents. They do not want to go into Norwich, into Greater Norwich. They see us as being a cash cow for Norwich, who does not have a record of particularly being confident or competent with their funding and debt, and certainly they wished to remain well out of a Greater Norwich, as we did a few years ago. There appears to be no appetite whatsoever for Helsden. This is the North West in particular, but I know certainly in the South East, residents of joining over the border. They are very concerned about their council tax rises, which will obviously, I would imagine, have to go up in line with what Norwich City already charge for their banding, but on top of that we'll have a parish precept too. So I think this exercise for Helston, as it stands at the moment, is going to be exceptionally costly. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor Gurney. I'm going to go on to Councillor Lamming, please.
Thank you, Chair. There is a lot of detail in this document on how change would be managed and implemented. Most of this, understandably, applies to officers and staff teams and the work that they would need to do to carry this out, but I couldn't see much detail about the role of councillors other than the predicted numbers that would possibly be needed. We currently have 399 county and district councillor seats. So if numbers were reduced to 200 in total for Norfolk, the role of each councillor, if carried out well, could be very time consuming. And rather worryingly, in the other models I've seen for a single unitary or for two unitaries, the number of councillors being suggested is 168. The political landscape is actually changing, as we all know, very rapidly, and we've seen the difficulties that can ensue for council staff in some councils where newly elected councillors did not realise fully the role that was involved and consequently were unable or disinterested in carrying out the role. So I do think we need to consider how to ensure that residents who are thinking of standing to become councillors in these new unitary authorities will be prepared for that role in advance. And I don't think actually personally that should just be left to political parties to do that. Or is it in fact the case that we're suggesting that even if an inexperienced and dysfunctional leadership cabinet was elected, that this model of unitary councils would still function sufficiently well? Thanks.
Thank you. I'm going to move on to Councillor Copplestone, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. I did the Teams training the other evening and it was really interesting, but I was really quite concerned when ICC said there is a huge initial cost to going into local government reform. And I'm equally worried when I hear the leaders say there's 900 million of debt to be serviced by the unitaries. We've worked really hard at Broadland to keep council tax low, and looking at the chart, I don't know which page it's on page 83, Broadland's Band D property is only 134.91, the second lowest in Norfolk, with Norwich being the highest at 306.11. I've looked at the figures on council tax harmonisation, and I know that only the low to max shows a positive position for the Greater Norwich Authority, and that's listed on at page 192. Also, the Greater Norwich area, the unearmarked reserves at only 5% are just on the threshold of red, which indicates they could lack resilience if they face a sustained financial shock. Councillor Laming has just said that representation going forward into local government reform will change, and I am really worried that our residents who we represent will be paying more council tax for far less representation. And I just think this whole local government reform is just higher council tax, a stealth tax on working people. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to make a comment, please? Councillor Douglas.
Thank you, Chair. I know lots of you know that I have involvement in education across Norfolk, and for 5 years we have worked in Norfolk on our local first inclusion plan for a SEND strategy transformation in Norfolk. It has taken that long to make inroads into the number of education and healthcare plans that are needed by children in this county. We've started to make inroads into being a more inclusive county for education, and I am concerned that this is a backward step to more silo working that we have tried so hard to eradicate in Norfolk. And it's going to take years on the programme that we're on, and we're starting from scratch again. And the cost involved in that so far has been huge, not just monetary, but for families. And I'm worried that we're going backwards. Thank you.
Thank you for that comment. Councillor Davis, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. I agree that local government certainly needs review, and greater efficiencies can be made. I think we can all see that. I mean, even in my own portfolio area, where we've got one council that's collecting waste and another one disposing of it, there are clearly efficiencies to be made there. So, yes, we do need that review, but I wouldn't start from here. I mean, we need more time. We should have had more time to be able to engage and collect and analyse the data and so on. But this is where we're at. So looking forward, we've talked about councils as if they're going to be replicating what we've already got. But it's actually an opportunity to be able to review the way we work. And as the report says, in terms of this report that's before you, it's not simply replicating what we've got already, but looking at not replicating the existing approach, but a new approach in terms of prevention, intervention at an early stage, primary care, basically, which should be the way forward in terms of preventing a lot of the problems that we have, to be able to intervene early. And that means, it does mean breaking up that silo working more collaboratively, and it is an opportunity for us to be able to review that. So when we talk about, well, directors of this replicated here and here and here, well, actually, it's looking at how best that structure should be established to be able to work more effectively in this way. So I think it is an opportunity. I am concerned at the democratic deficit. I think we've already heard in terms of the numbers of the reduction in numbers of councillors. At the moment, we have 2 or 3 district councillors for some wards, as well as a county councillor. And we know from the work that we do that we can be quite busy at times, being able to respond to our residents' concerns. And that's why I think a single unitary with only 168 councillors is going to be a heck of a job to be able to represent our residents adequately and in a responsible way. So the 3 unitary, yes, 200 councillors, but at least it's a geographical area that we can cover. I wouldn't like to be on a planning committee trying to decide, a planning application in Kings Lynn, an area I don't know at all. But at least within smaller unitary councils, we've got an opportunity to be able to understand our local area and act responsibly in that sense. So that's where 3 unitaries does do it for me. Just a comment on the county's papers that came forward recently on a single unitary. We need to mention parish and town councils, because parish and town councils are representing at our community level the concerns that we can take forward at the moment in terms of district councils and county. And often we overlap and support each other in doing that. But I'm really concerned that within a single unitary council, what's being proposed here for town and parish councils, it's shocking actually, section 18, a new relationship with town and parish councils, it says, and then it looks at local choices and offer and local services that parish and town councils are suggested could take on, from minor road and footpath repairs to street cleaning and litter collection, recycling waste initiatives, community transport schemes, environmental health checks and pest control. I mean, these are all listed here under the single unitary proposal for town and parish councils. How on earth are town and parish councils, some of the smaller ones, able to cover that? I do want to support the idea of neighbourhood committees, and I think where parishes have got together, we've seen in a cluster they can be stronger together and represent their concerns, whether it's speeding through villages, whether it's litter, whatever. And so that's a good thing. And it is an opportunity within this new structure to be able to intervene early, to prevent, to work at a community level. But that'll only work if we have enough representatives on a geographical basis that is proposed here in the 3 unitary council model, which therefore I support.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. I've got Councillor Vincent next, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'd summarise my concerns as 2 fundamental concerns. One, to echo that of Councillor Douglas. As a former Deputy Cabinet Member for Children's Services at Norfolk County Council, I know that the inroads that have been made, the huge amount of effort to bring about change and improvements for children and young people across Norfolk. And to disaggregate that to 3 unitaries, I genuinely feel is a seriously backward step and of great concern. My second concern echoes those of my colleagues across the room, and that's I represent El Catton. The residents of El Catton, I have not heard one of them wishing to be part of Greater Norwich and the additional costs that will bring them. So they're my 2 fundamental concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vincent. I've got Councillor Riley next, please.
We working okay, Chair? Yep, can you hear me? All right. Thank you, yeah. A lot of the main driver behind this has been quoted in several places, and here again tonight, has been that the need to do this is to simply save money. And there lies the danger, because when you simply go about things in order to save money, you risk vital services that are absolutely fundamental to the well-being of residents of this, of Norfolk, of Broadland, and of citizenship. And if we look at the savings that are being projected for a single unitary, and the savings being projected for a 3 unitary, both are saying that they will make savings. So what's the critical issue here? The critical issue is what's in the interests of service and service provision. I personally believe that under a unitary system that many of the services that district councils and particularly Broadland offer are at risk because a lot of them are discretionary and they're not statutory. And if you look at the bills that we currently receive from the county, who are constantly having to raise issues around deficits every year virtually. There were 40 million last year that savings had to be made with £900 million of debt. There's clearly an issue in large, and this issue of too big to fail is a problem because there is not the resource in this country to bail out one huge unitary and the risks that are entailed with that. 3 unitaries give residents and give democracy a chance. It gives them a chance because you can make your decisions at a closer level to the communities, and also in terms of risk, in terms of failure, it's spread. So I think that there's a real risk by going down the road of a single unitary. At the moment, the £900 debt is significantly higher than what Suffolk's is. So clearly there are systemic problems within the county which are not going to be enhanced by making it even larger and a more encompassed organisation in terms of one single unitary. So 3 unitaries would help with that and help with the devolution in a more meaningful way than one single unitary. And I think there's a huge risk if we go down the road of one unitary in terms of other sorts of costs in terms of failure, which I think are more likely under a large unitary than a 3 unitary system. So that's why I'm supporting a 3 unitary system. Would I prefer to be sitting here tonight debating unitaries? No, I wouldn't, because I'm actually a 2-tier man, because I believe it's actually delivered for the public. And if you look at the costs of district councils, we are cheap. We are very cost effective we offer great value for what our services we provide. So I would prefer not to be sitting here tonight debating this, but in the situation we've got, I believe a 3 unitary is the best proposition. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Bailey, please.
Thank you, Chair. I was just listening to Councillor Douglas and Councillor Vincent and their talk around education, and I can really hear their passion and the amount of work that they've been putting in. As Councillor Douglas said, it's been a 5-year plan, looking at that. But actually, working in education myself, and particularly in SEND, what have Children's Services been doing as part of that 5-year plan is starting to cut the county down into zones. I went to my first zonal meeting last week, and the whole reason behind breaking it up into zones, the key points were to share data on your local cohort of schools and children, to have specialists in each area that understand that cohort of children in schools, to understand whether they're in an urban area or a rural area, to share practice, to share good working practice between people who are close together, and to understand that cohort. And that is exactly what the aim of those smaller unitaries are. It's what is already happening in some county council departments, breaking it down into zones, understanding those zones, really getting to know them, and having that better working practice for that cohort. And that's exactly why we're supporting that 3 unitary model. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tobel.
Thank you. I was going to say something very similar, actually. I also work in the education sector, and particularly with safeguarding of our children. And what I was going to say is that absolutely there's a 5-year plan that's been in place. But what we see when we look at the county picture is the safeguarding team, when we ring through to them, are maxed out. We are sitting on hold to them for an incredibly long time. They are so busy that they're also currently, I was told, the words described to me yesterday by a member of council was maxed out to the point that they're not actually sending any of their follow-up advisory letters to some of their schools. What we're also seeing with our children with special educational needs is that statutory timescales are being missed over and over again. The timescales to get a needs assessment, to get one issued for an annual review, are being repeatedly missed. What has worked well, and I think this is where I echo Councillor Bailey, is that the zoning, the local hubs that have been set up are working well. It just shows that actually they're closer to the communities, they're more accessible, they understand the need. And so if we know that something isn't happening when it's under one, but it's working really well when it's taken down to local level, none of us want to be put in this position. But I would say we still need to keep, I said this before, I'll say it again, we need to keep our services as close to our residents as we can to deliver them. So Broadland District Council has shown that we can deliver excellent services to our community. So let's not assume that we couldn't take on, in a 3 unitary trust, that we couldn't take on and deliver excellence in children's services, adult services, safeguarding and SEND. So I will be supporting the 3 unitary because I want to keep as close as possible to that, so that the 5-year plan actually filters down to the users who need it at the very bottom of that list. Thank you.
Thank you for your contribution. I've got Councillor Tipple next, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm very supportive of this approach. I think for the 3 unitaries, I think sitting there listening to comments, especially from some Norfolk Conservatives, about managing money carefully. I think Norfolk Council is an example of bad money management. The deficit they're running is ridiculous. I think it was quite interesting in the report here that showed actually the savings that the single unitary would make would actually be dwarfed by the deficit the Norfolk County Council are currently running. So any savings proposed by a single unitary model will just go to cover off their large £900 million debt. So I don't think we can take any lectures from any Norfolk Conservatives with their cost overruns, massive deficits and debt that put people of Norfolk into. So I think the 3 unitary model is a very good model to take forward. I think the report shows that the 3 unitaries will round about fairly break even in terms of revenue coming into revenue being spent on services. I agree with what some of the councillors are saying around this is putting the services closer to our communities, improving the delivery of those services. And I think I fully support this. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to make a contribution? Councillor Bullman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For once, I find yet again, actually, I agree with Councillor Riley. This is a solution looking for a problem, in my view. Basically, every parish council that I've visited recently, and quite a few, they ask me one question: why are you doing this? Because essentially, from experience, having really looked at about 2 mergers and takeovers, which I was partially responsible for, the result in all of those cases was a fair degree of confusion, of people not knowing what they'd be supposed to be doing, and basically it was very, very disruptive. And any reorganisation is going to be disruptive, and I don't believe that this will be any different. I don't think people have actually estimated what disruption this is going to cause, because essentially for the best part of 3 to 4 years, when things are settling down, people will be receiving a far worse service, in my view, than they are now. So I wouldn't change it, because basically, although there are some problems with it, yes, highways and planning, people don't always know which person to go to, or which part of the organisation to go to. But if that is the only problem that we're experiencing, a bit of reorganisation and a bit of direction would solve that. This is not a solution to a problem. This is just a problem being generated by a solution. So I wouldn't support any of it. But if I've got to support anything, I'm not going to support a 3 unitary authority, because that will simply be a waste of money.
Thank you. If there's nobody else wishing... Oh, Mr Clancy, sorry, Councillor Cansley.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I would like to associate myself also with Councillor Bowman's comments and Councillor Riley's comments that actually this isn't necessary. This is a costly exercise in bureaucracy. Realistically, it's going to take 10 more, possibly more years to actually disaggregate and to sort out. In the meantime, frankly and honestly, it's going to be chaotic, it's going to be difficult and costly. Realistically, and we can't do this, I accept we can't do this, and realistically something else will potentially be imposed on us, but realistically, the case for change is not really there. The case to actually change something which isn't broken is not necessary. Broadland have been historically, and still are, a well-run district council with a low council tax for our residents and on the whole a well-managed authority. The sensible case would be to actually cut out duplication, cut out cost, unify services across the county, across the districts, to actually make things more efficient, more productive and more receptive, with clear definition of what county is responsible for, clear definition of what districts are responsible for. Classic example being waste, with Norfolk County Council being the disposal authority, the district councils being the collection authority. Other examples, things like planning, we've got the county being the strategic planning authority and the districts being the actual operational planning authority. That potentially is going to get worse if we go for devolution, because the mayor will have a role in planning as well. So all this potentially is going to do is to actually slow up process, create more bureaucracy and more cost. And I, again, agree with those who said, I can't see in the urban fringes there is much appetite to be part of Norwich, because Norwich, frankly, doesn't perform particularly well. And in reality, in terms of council tax at all banding, the cost is considerably more in Norwich at all levels than what it would be in Broadland around the urban fringes. So, you know, if it's not broken, what it needs is actually streamlining, making more efficient, more productive, and I've agreed with colleagues from the other side of the room, you know, there's a need for the democracy and there's a need for local delivery of democracy. But what it really comes down to, in reality, if the government are going to impose this on us in any case, which, let's be fair, there's a good chance that will happen, it comes down to which is the most deliverable, which is the most cost-effective and efficient model. And as much as the county council, and I'll be first to admit, has failings, it definitely does have failings, But the reality, as I see it, would be a county council, a single unitary model, which in terms of cost, in terms of benefit, stacks up. However, there is also a case for delivering democracy locally. So logically, you're going to have hubs around Norfolk, because again, I think as Councillor Davis has alluded to, you can't really be making planning decisions in Wisbech and somewhere, for example, like Harleston, which are poles apart. So there is a case for working, managing hubs around the county. Now, in reality, these councils will maybe change in name, but in administrative purposes, they really aren't going to change. We've just got huge transition costs in the meantime, huge costs to council taxpayers, and the commensurate confusion which goes with it. So, you know, in reality, we shouldn't be going for a 3 unitary model. Frankly, again, concurring with Councillor Riley and Councillor Bullman, we shouldn't really be going for anything, because it really does not deliver benefits to our residents. There's nothing here which delivers benefits to our residents. So we should be bold and actually say to the government, this isn't going to work. But I know this is the central government, and ultimately, whatever the political party, they have the ability to impose this on us. So I think we should think very carefully, Chairman.
Thank you. Got Councillor Nurden, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm looking at the report on page 113, where it talks about councillor numbers and representation. And it says there, we are proposing a councillor across, a councillor model that delivers both efficiency and effectiveness, ensuring East Norfolk has the right number of elected representatives. And I look at the East Norfolk model, and I see that, because that is the ward that I represent at the moment in East Norfolk. And the ratio of elected member to electorate is more than almost 1,000 more than in the Greater Norwich or West Norfolk model. And I don't believe that this number of 200 that they have put forward is going to give us or ensure that there is sufficient capacity to populate committees, represent diverse geographies, and manage casework effectively. The East Norfolk has got a lot, and outside of Greater Norwich, it's a very rural area, and there's a big area that I cover, which is one of the bigger wards, but I don't agree with the number of 200. I would suggest something more in the region of 300 servicing my residents. So that's just my thoughts why I don't agree with what is put in front of me as a proposal. Thank you.
Councillor Roper.
Thank you, Chair. It won't surprise you as a member of the Cabinet that I'm endorsing the reports. I'm endorsing the work that this council has undertaken. We've combined with other councils to bring together expertise. It has presented a report, the numbers stack up, and I believe that that report should be submitted on behalf of this council. But I choose my words carefully because I do have another hat, and on Monday I should be at County Hall chairing that council's Selection Scrutiny Committee about the County Council's own proposal. So I'm not going to say anything about that at all. But what I will say is that I agree with Councillor Davis when he said that if you had a starting place, you certainly wouldn't start from here. And I think we're at a position at the moment where local government has had sustained attacks in terms of its finances for a good 15, 16 years. I'm trying to remember when the big conversation was, Councillor Gurney, you may remember that, must be about 15, 16 years ago, which was the first big transformation in the county council, which stripped away, I think, about £200 million in that exercise. And since then, we've not seen a fair funding review for places like Norfolk and in terms of the delivery of adult social care. Repeated governments have said that's too difficult and have kicked the can down the road. We have a growing problem with SEND and special needs education, again, because successive governments have not tackled the issue. So you really wouldn't be starting from here, in that it's left local government in its weakest possible situation, and has now called on it that it's time for change. But unfortunately, it said status quo is not an option for us. And I hear what people have said in their comments about existing councils and their performance. But what I would say is that you have to remember, whether it is 1, 2 or 3 unitary authorities, these will be new councils with new representatives, new ways of doing things. And we shouldn't just look to the past and cast judgments on what's going to happen in the future. And something I would say, because comments have been made about adult social care and children's services, and I'll say exactly the same as what I said in Scrutiny Committee a few months ago. I have absolute confidence that the staff working in those areas, through their dedication, whatever the setup is going to be, will still deliver absolutely what they feel is best for the children and vulnerable adults in this county, whatever the setup is. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Chair. Try again. Just 2 quick points. Number one is that we're blessed with diversity. We should be celebrating the differences that we have. With the 3 unitary, I believe that 3 heads are better than 1. Second thing is that if there's going to be any plans to pass on services to parish councils, like pest control and highways, whatever, I'd say good luck with that, because I don't believe that you're going to have any councils left. Thank you.
Right, have we come to an end to this debate now? Anybody else wish to speak? Last chance. Okay, I'm going to pass over to Councillor Hartley as the seconder.
Thank you. Well, I've listened to what everybody has to say, and some of you I agree with, some of you I don't agree with. There have been some very valid points raised, of which I do share, particularly regarding councillor numbers. I have consistently argued for more, but what we have to say is we're not trying to sell you anything. We've been asked a question and we've answered it within the parameters of which we are allowed to. So the arguments about whether unitaries are the way to go or districts, it's a moot point, because it's not a choice. We have to answer the questions that we've been answered, and that's what we've done. Again, there's been some comments regarding self-interest, as though the government or us are doing this out of self-interest. Certainly at a local level, by halving the council numbers, we're effectively doing ourselves out of jobs. This is not in self-interest at all. And as a proud Broadland member, I want to stay close to my community, and I think it's really important that we maintain those local links. You know, democracy is very fragile at the minute. There is very little trust in politicians and all levels of government, and if we rip it apart even more, make it distant, it's going to be even harder to maintain stable communities, which are really on the edge right now. So this is why I endorse the 3, to maintain that local connection, which I think is absolutely vital for democracy and community cohesion. So I'm very much in support of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hopley. Councillor Holland, would you like to respond at the end, please?
Thank you. Yes, I've listened to all these comments, and there are some interesting points that I have noted. I do find it interesting that we're quoting Suffolk's finances. I'm not sure why you didn't quote Norfolk's, because they do stack up, and if you look at the financial appendices, which are quite long, you'll find that they do work. I think one of the other things I would point out is that whatever we all feel, there is no vote for us. We cannot vote, our parishes cannot vote. That's not right, I'm not saying that's right, but we can't. What we are doing here is putting forward a proposal that will work given the parameters the government has set. My other point about that also would be, if we talk about social care, I believe Councillor Gurney cited a figure, I think you'll find that those figures were supplied, well I know you'll find, the data was supplied by the County Council. These are not figures we've made up, these are data sharing that went through from the County Council. I would also suggest that the figure you're quoting actually is per head of population, not per case, but I may be corrected on that. So I think that would explain why I agree with you, £492 or whatever it is a very low figure if it's per person, but I don't think you'll find it is. The figures came from data provided by the County Council to make this report work. So I can only say to you, I will support again this unitary proposal, not because I'm in favour of unitary authorities necessarily, but because I think the government will choose the one that it actually wants, if I'm quite honest with you, and I would like to make sure that we do the best we possibly can for all of us, and we're the residents, I pay my taxes, we're all going to pay more, in my view, whatever solution there is. And let's not forget, there will be a mayor who will also be raising a precept. So, you know, everyone in this room, your council tax is likely to go up whichever solution is found. So for me, 3 is still the best because it's the most democratic, it's the fairest, it works with local communities, it can work with education, it can work with health and social care, it can work across the board, and that preventative work that we all do here now as district councils can carry on in those examples. And that's really, really important because the only way you are going to help us and the government and everybody save money is by protecting people and helping them to live happy and healthy lives. And I feel that really strongly. So for me, this 3 unitary is the best solution and I urge you to support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Holmes. I'm going to refer members to the recommendations on page 12. I'm not going to read them all out again. All those in favour of those 3 recommendations, please raise your hand. (22), Chair. All those against? Chair. Thank you. Recommendations have been carried. Thank you for attending tonight. We close the meeting at 8 o'clock.